the best place to work.
I love working here.
I feel very blessed.
I love it here.
I look forward to coming to work every day, being a part of this team.
Like a family away from home.
Where everyone feels like everybody knows their name.
A city that supports you. We see that with our benefits.
A pension, vacation days, job security.
Being able to be heard.
We feel valued. We feel respected.
Lee Summit is a very progressive city.
It's growing, it's thriving.
We have this drive towards not just doing a job, but doing it with a spirit of excellence.
I had the opportunity to continue to grow, regardless of 30 plus years doing this kind of work.
It's more than just dollars and cents.
We're here really to give back.
Providing a service to better a community.
To go out and serve people.
To be a part of something bigger than yourself. If I would have known what I know now, years ago, I would have been here much sooner.
Hello, Lee Summit. I'm Jordan. Here's your flash briefing for the week of February 9th. City Council will meet for a regular session Tuesday night at 6 in Council Chambers in City Hall. Meetings are open to the public or watch live on the city's YouTube channel. If you can't watch, catch the recorded meeting on demand on the YouTube channel or by subscribing to the Council Debrief newsletter, which breaks down 3 to 4 key agenda items. Subscribe at cityofls.net. The city will be hosting an in-person public meeting to discuss the Ward Road Improvements Project on Thursday, February 12th from 4:30 to 6:30 p.m. at City Hall. The project will improve Ward Road from Northwest O'Brien Road to Blue Parkway and includes roadway reconstruction to a 2-lane section, one in each direction, with bicycle lanes and sidewalks along both sides. This week is Take Time to Be Kind Week, devoted to random and purposeful acts of kindness throughout the Lee Summit community. Community members, students, and businesses are encouraged to participate, perhaps performing a good deed for a friend, neighbor, or stranger without expecting anything in return. The Human Relations Commission is hosting activities in the City Hall lobby throughout the week. The public is asked to share their acts of kindness on social media using hashtag #LSKindness. Learn more at lskindness.net. The intersection of Northwest Ward Road and Northwest Blue Parkway is set to close on Friday, February 13th, and will remain closed until approximately the end of June. A section of Northwest Blue Parkway between Northwest Executive Way and Northwest Ward Road also will be closed. The closures are necessary for the construction of a roundabout at the intersection of Northwest Ward Road and Northwest Blue Parkway as part of the Ward Road Improvements Project. For more information about the Ward Road Improvements Project, visit cityofls.net/ward. And a reminder, city facilities will be closed on Monday, February 19th for President's Day. Thanks for listening and have a great week.
The city of Lee Summit has hundreds of traffic lights across its more than 1,000 lane miles.
all managed by the city's Public Works traffic technicians. The work happens inside those metal boxes on the side of each intersection. Inside, technicians program a device called the controller. The controller communicates directly with each signal head via underground wires, telling each light when to turn on and off based on a programmed cycle. City traffic engineers designed this cycle to allow traffic to flow as efficiently as possible for that particular intersection. In order to best match current traffic patterns, they install something called a detection system. Detection systems have taken many forms over the years, from sensors in the pavement to radar boxes. But in Lee Summit, they primarily consist of cameras, which workers mount above the traffic signals. These cameras don't record video or your speed. Instead, they monitor the spaces at the front of the intersection and identify when a vehicle is present in a specific spot. Once a vehicle is identified, the detection system sends a message to the controller, which then adapts its standard cycle to best serve the cars that are present. The pedestrian button works in a similar way. When the button is pressed, the controller receives a signal, requesting that it allow that section of the pedestrian walkway to go, which it then inserts into the signal pattern. Technicians also install something called a conflict monitor. The conflict monitor is a device in which they program all the potential patterns of lights that would lead to a collision. If the other systems mistakenly trigger those patterns, the conflict monitor sends the intersection into flash, causing all lights to flash red and directing drivers to treat it like an all-way stop. City traffic technicians implement and maintain these systems so effectively, we rarely consider them. But every time we safely pass through a signal-controlled intersection, it's all thanks to their work. So the next time you're waiting at a red light, remember the delicate coordination of super smart systems that move you through that space safely and efficiently every day.
It's member level. Thank you, Mayor. Great presentation, Ryan. Thank you. Is there any indicator that shows, are we supporting a need?
You know, they talk about like gym rats, kids that grew up with their dads that were coaches. Like I was a city hall rat. My dad, Tom Lovell, was hired as the Parks Administrator in 1978 and spent 40 years in public service here in Lee Summit. I would go up on the weekends when he was working and I'd run around and play and do things, and I didn't know what he was doing at the time, but I just knew that was part of our weekend routine some days, was to go up and hang out at City Hall. Being part of a city from a young age to now in my adult life, you reap so many benefits from that. The people you know, you care more for something that you've been a part of. My wife and I knew we wanted to raise a family. Just trying to find a community that we thought we could raise our children in, that was good to me, and it just felt like the right move as we were deciding on a city to come back to. Fortunate to have started a business in 2018. I founded Level Insurance Group, and we are a business insurance brokerage. So we help businesses procure insurance. Decided to throw our flag in the ground here in Lee Summit, and it's grown. I also have this passion for learning and curiosity, and I started a podcast series. So I really enjoy this opportunity where I sit down with business owners and tell their story and get this out to other people in hopes that maybe it betters their life and gives them some inspiration or something. It's going to be a really exciting time, and obviously this city is in my blood. My dad's been a part of it for a long time, so I'm really excited. Thank you all. A lot of people would say I was crazy, right? So why do you throw your hand up and subject yourself to going into city politics? I think, especially as I've gotten older, I just felt, maybe a civic duty, like a responsibility to say, hey, this city's been great to me. Here's a way that I can give back and take some of my skills and put them to work for the people of this city. I wanted to bring a different, maybe way of thinking and take some of my business acumen and see areas that it may apply to how we develop and grow this community and just give a different perspective. One of our biggest challenges, but also one of our biggest opportunities, is how do we develop and grow this community? We don't want to grow too fast, but we want to grow at a pace that helps support, who and what we are as a community. So, we've got a lot of opportunities, whether that be through development or parks. We've got a lot of land coming on board. So I just think it's important, it's a challenge, but it's also our greatest opportunity. And so we just got to be smart how we do that. It's just asking some different questions. I'm one that, I'm not contrarian for contrarian's sake. What I am is someone will tell me something and then I want to get to that position with them by just asking thoughtful questions along the way. And then if I can get there, then I feel like we've answered everything we can to move that forward versus, hey, here's kind of how we've done it. I'm never the, this is how we do it, this is how we've always done it, and this is how we'll continue to do it. Office of Council Member for District 2. All of my practical experience has put me in this position to serve, and I just raised my hand and said I want to do that. For which I was elected on April 5th, 2022. I feel this obligation to carry this legacy that my dad did, my family did, and then giving my kids an environment to grow up in that makes them want to come back. My kids have started rec sports through the Parks and Recreation system, and I'm watching them play soccer on this sport field that, you know, my dad helped develop. And my dad's sitting there with me, right? I mean, that's the stuff that really matters in life.
Chair Hodges, Vice Chair Carlisle,
Present.
Councilmember Pryor,
Oh, sorry. Here.
Councilmember Funk,
Here.
Planning Commissioner Trafton.
Here.
All right. Thank you. Next, I have approval of the agenda.
Chair,
Please.
I move to approve the agenda as published.
Second. I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda as published. Can I get a roll call, please?
Councilmember Pryor,
Aye.
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carlisle.
Aye. Next on the agenda, we have public comments. Did we have any public comments? Okay, no. Next, business. Okay, we have 2026-7428, approval of the January 14th, 2026 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter.
Chair,
Please.
I move to approve the 2026 Community and Economic Development Committee action letter.
The January 14th, 2026?
Oh, yeah, what did I say?
Just
Oh, yeah, January 14th, sorry.
Thank you.
Second.
Thank you. I have a motion and a second to approve the January 14th, 2026 action letter. Can I have a roll call, please?
Councilmember Funk,
Aye.
Vice Chair Carlisle,
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
All right, and that passes. Next on the agenda, we have TMP 3590, an ordinance amending the city's floodplain regulations, Unified Development Ordinance, Article 5, Division 2, Sections 5.100 through 5.300. Sue Piles, you have something for us, or are you just going to tell us what we're doing, or anything?
A little bit of a slideshow.
Okay, perfect.
Good afternoon. Sue Piles, Development Engineering Manager. Here before you today to go over some updates that we're proposing for the Floodplain Overlay District. It is commonly referred to as a floodplain ordinance. That's probably the term you've heard most. It's, as you said, UDO Article 5, Division 2. Floodplain Management Ordinance is required for the National Flood Insurance Program managed by FEMA. So this ordinance brings consistent development standards so that floodplain insurance can be obtained by owners, renters, and business owners. This is just a picture to show good planning in that you've got residential lots that are platted outside of a floodplain area in the colored area, but yet the next picture shows that it's not all lost land. You can have amenities in there. It can be used very well to help the community. So we decided to take a look at the entire ordinance. We wanted to codify existing practices, provide greater clarity if possible, and then just some ordinance housekeeping, fixing typos and grammar issues that were in there. So one of the first things we wanted to do was to codify an analysis that we have been requiring for a while. It's FEMA's Technical Bulletin TB10, which doesn't really mean much to anybody but somebody working in floodplains. It helps us locate structures built on fill far enough away from the floodplain so that the floodplain itself, the water won't have any negative effects on the foundation or the basement. This busy picture here on the right, it just shows if you're going to build a house on fill, you don't want to raise your house up out of the floodplain, but then have your basement floor down to where it can be impacted negatively. So it just helps us have the structures far enough away. We codified another practice to some documents that we require. Fill placed in a floodway fringe, we require a new no-rise certificate. Fill placed in the regulatory floodway letter map revision. The no-rise certificate is a city process. The letter of map revision is a FEMA process. It's something that we've been doing. It's current practice, so there's no changes. Another thing we've done is added a duty and responsibility so that the floodplain administrator is allowed to have higher standards than something that FEMA might have in their standards, should it be deemed necessary. And that's typical with how we have all of our ordinances. Then we had some things to do to provide some more clarity. One of the requests we received from FEMA was about precision that we've shown in our ordinance. We had 2 feet written in our ordinance, and FEMA requires 2.00 feet. We wanted to make sure that somebody wouldn't look at that and think, oh, I have 1.7 feet elevated, that rounds to 2, I'm good, and then send something to FEMA and have them say, no, it's not 2.00. So all it does is make sure that we're on the same page as FEMA, and anybody looking at it will know we're the same. We added or revised a definition to add some more terminology to it to make sure that this one term can be said a couple different ways. We want to make sure everybody's speaking about the same thing when they think they are. We updated another definition to change tracking from 10 years to 5 years because it's a rolling 5-year tracking, and that's how city tracks some other things. So just for consistency. We updated the reference to the city engineer to call it the floodplain administrator. That's the commonly used term in most jurisdictions, and it just resonates more universally. We also added some definitions. Again, the language, the community rating system, that's what the flood insurance program uses. We match FEMA's language in this case now, more specifically match it. And then anybody looking at that ordinance before they come into work in our city will know that we're on the same page. And our recommendation is that you direct us to prepare an ordinance for taking to the Planning Commission and City Council for these updates. And I can answer any questions or try to that you might have.
Thank you. Do we have any questions?
Just one, how many floodplain areas do we have in the city?
We have about 3,000 acres of floodplain in the city.
Is most of that in one area, 2 areas?
Spread quite a bit around.
City,
Yep.
okay. Thank you. Thank you, Chair.
I do. Okay, so I had a question from a constituent about this area, and they wanted to know if, like, the history of flooding in this neighborhood?
In what neighborhood?
The neighborhood around there, 33rd and Ward area?
33rd and Ward?
That's what it said.
I'll let Kara Starlin from Public Works help that.
Kara Starlin, Public Works. I'm one of the certified floodplain managers for the city. 33rd and Ward is a project area that the subdivision, I'm not going to remember the name of the subdivision off the top of my head. The property to the north is undeveloped. I think it's actually going forward into development soonish, I think. And that area, there's 2 detention ponds there. You know what I'm talking about? Yeah. And there's 2 detention ponds. Yeah, that's it. 2 detention ponds there that the city owns. At some point, those are going to get submitted over to the new developer to manage. But there are 2 to the north of that subdivision and 1 in the middle of the subdivision to help manage flooding. We have not had any reports of flooding in that neighborhood since COVID, I think, that I'm aware of. So to my knowledge, that project, those detention basins are working as intended. So have you heard other things? Or your constituent is just curious about the flooding there?
Yeah, the email I got, they were just curious about the flooding right there.
Yep, I think if we're all talking about the same area, those 2 detention ponds were designed specifically in that private property, we manage them, to manage that flooding, and to my knowledge, that has worked and since those have been installed.
Oh, good to know.
Okay.
Thank you.
Chair, I could add, I mean, I'm familiar with what she's talking about. You know, there is a concern by the neighbors in that area about when development happens north of those 2 detention ponds, that they will increase the possibility of flooding in that area, because there was historically, I guess, flooding in that area. So I think that's the concern, that will happen. My recollection, and I haven't seen a revised version of this development at planning yet, but what I recall is there was extensive work done with the developer in the city around management of new potential runoff in those areas. So I don't know. And it sounds like Mr. Elam has some comments.
Yeah, just for a point of clarification, what we're talking about tonight is related to our floodplain overlay district. That is really related to our FEMA floodplains and FEMA floodways, not detention and normal stormwater management required of any development project. It sounds a little bit like perhaps the question that you received was related to runoff from construction sites and future development. That's handled in a different portion of our UDO through the design and construction manual and through the development review process and everything. This is really dealing with our regulated floodplains, which are your areas that are typically around streams and things along those natures. And they're mapped by the Federal Emergency Management Association.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other questions or comments? Will you want to back that up one so they can see what you want them to do?
Sure. I think. There you go. We need to prepare an ordinance. So that's what we'd like direction for.
All right,
Chair,
please.
I move that we direct staff to begin preparation of an ordinance that reflects working drafts of Red Line's UDO text prepared by the Public Works and Development Engineering.
Second.
Thank you. I have a recommendation to staff and a second. Can I have a roll call?
Vice Chair Carlisle.
Aye.
Councilmember Pryor.
Aye.
Councilmember Funk.
Aye.
Okay. Thank you for that presentation. Next, we have presentation 2026-7449, approaches to the regulation of gas station drugs and vaping retailers.
Good afternoon, Tracy Albers with Development Services. At the request of several committee members late last year, staff's here today to provide information about the potential regulation of what is being called gas station drugs and the regulation of vaping retailers here in the city. So the original request was actually specific to the possible regulation of vaping retailers from more of a land use perspective. However, we wanted to take this opportunity to highlight some of the pending legislation at the state level, as well as KCMO's gas station ordinance, which is currently under consideration, which is focused more on prohibiting the drugs or the products themselves versus creating regulations on a land use. So one question that I've heard in this jurisdiction and several others is, how do vaping retailers somehow manage to stay in business? Or why are these retailers always concentrated in one part of our city? There's a little bit of science to it. Vaping retailers sustain their operations by selling a variety of vaping and cannabinoid products, some of which are more addictive than others, often with very aggressive markups. And it was suggested anywhere between 300 and 500% on just those liquid vaping cartridges alone. They often locate in older multi-tenant shopping centers, often centers that have high visibility from adjacent travel corridors. Their business model has very low overhead, requires minimal staffing, and it's worth mentioning they're not without challenges. Increasingly, states and/or communities are prohibiting or regulating the products that make them profitable. Also, legal compliance is often a deterrent, rigorous age verification being one of those issues. And also there's limits on advertising, especially for the vaping products, whether it's limits on how much window signage you can have, or bans that are had by major digital platforms, things like Facebook, Instagram, that make natural barriers to advertising exist. So first, we wanted to touch on a piece of state legislation here in Missouri. Senate Bill 927 is addressing the regulation and sale of kratom products. Kratom is a plant-derived substance that some folks use recreationally or for pain management. The sale of kratom under this legislation would be regulated, but what is being prohibited is something called 7-OH. 7-OH is actually a derivative of kratom. It's a concentrated synthetic product that have this 7-OH in exceedingly high quantities. It's a very potent opioid. They say it's approximately a dozen times stronger than morphine. It's sold as gummies, it's sold as candies, liquid shots, tablets, and even vapor at gas stations, smoke shops, vape shops, and the like. I didn't even feel comfortable including pictures of these products in our slide deck today, in large part because they're packaged and designed and flavored to be so attractive to youth. That's part of their draw. So 7-OH isn't approved by the FDA or even federally regulated, but it's also not officially considered a controlled substance at the federal level either. That puts the substance in kind of this gray area where it's up to individual states and cities to determine its legality, while waiting for the FDA to complete steps on scheduling it as a Schedule I substance. So until they do, these products continue to be available on shelves at gas stations and vape stores. And it's easy to confuse kratom, which isn't nearly as addictive, with things like 7-OH. So while it's unknown at this time how the DEA may act, several states, including Missouri, are taking it upon themselves through legislation to ensure that while products like kratom would still be allowed for sale to persons that are 21 and over, its more highly addictive opioid-like counterpart would be prohibited. In January, that's when the last action was taken on this bill, the Senate Judiciary Committee conducted the public hearing on this legislation, but to date, no vote has occurred. So next up is KCMO. Mayor Lucas first introduced the gas station drugs ban ordinance back in November, December. And originally it had a very big reach. It was seeking to ban the sale of kratom derivatives, including that 7-OH, also things like Delta-8, Delta-9 THC edibles, nitrous oxide cartridges, whippets, and other synthetic cannabinoids and other regulated intoxicants. Again, sold at gas stations, convenience shops, vape stores, and the like. Now, since its introduction, the Council Committee approved a revised version of this ordinance that would set strict concentration limits on 7-OH in natural kratom products, and like the state ban the synthetic sale of that 7-OH product. We're actually still trying to determine right now, under the revised version of the ordinance, if some of these other drugs would be more strictly regulated or just prohibited altogether. It really is a work in progress. A vote by the full council is tentatively expected for council. It's also worth mentioning that other communities are aware of this, specifically Blue Springs and Independence. They're watching this ordinance and have expressed interest in taking similar steps in their own respective jurisdictions. Anything adopted by KCMO will be largely dependent on enforcement to gauge its effectiveness. If passed, businesses would be given 60 days to come into compliance. After, fines could range from $750 to $1,000 daily. Continued noncompliance may result in revocation of a business license. And at one point, they were actually suggesting that repeat offenders be subject to jail time, but those provisions appear to be walked back in the revised version of the ordinance. In Kansas City, again, a discussion had about why the ban on all of these products. Supporters generally arguing that the ordinance would protect children and overarching community health. Some concerns were raised about including natural kratom leaf products in the ban, arguing for more clear distinctions between naturally occurring products versus engineered or synthetic substances. And again, tentatively scheduled to be considered by full council tomorrow. So last but not least, we wanted to talk about what originally brought us back to CEDC, which was the local regulation of vaping retailers. Vape shops, yes, they sell vape pens and cartridges, but they may also sell a lot of the other products that we've talked about so far. They may also sell tobacco products or just generic paraphernalia. The map on the slide illustrates vape shops staff is readily aware of. From a land use perspective, we treat them just like general retail, and we don't necessarily subject them to special development standards that are specific to their land use. And even though all of these businesses require a business license, again, we don't necessarily categorize vaping retailers distinct from general retail businesses. Admittedly, this map may not be all-inclusive, and it does fail to illustrate the businesses like gas stations or convenience stores that sell some of these products, but generally speaking, you can see that many of these stores are located along major transportation corridors in the city that have medium to high visibility, and also in areas where you have a prevalence of multi-tenant commercial centers. Several jurisdictions treat vaping retailers just like we do, like general retail, and do not impose any use-specific standards to the business. However, a few communities have taken steps to create use-specific requirements in an effort to avoid an overconcentration of the business type or to ensure public health, safety, or welfare. Blue Springs, in their UDO, has buffering requirements from similar stores, residential land uses, and civic uses. They also have a population-based limit on the number of stores based on population, and additional requirements for video surveillance and exterior lighting. Up the road in Independence, you'll find similar buffering requirements from like-minded uses, residential uses or districts, churches, schools, or parks, a population density requirement, and again, requirements for things like video surveillance, outdoor lighting, alarm systems, and the like. And then over across state line in Shawnee, Kansas, you've got similar buffering requirements, and they also require an e-cigarette specific retail license when they're applying for a business license. One thing worth mentioning over in Kansas, right now, there is legislation making its way through the Kansas state legislature that would have a potentially very large impact on e-cigarette manufacturing and sales in the state. Currently, stores have to be licensed by the state to sell, and under legislation that's being proposed, that would extend actually to manufacturers and distributors. Per the author of the bill, the goal is to curb unsafe, unregulated products that oftentimes come into the marketplace from foreign countries, specifically China. Opponents have warned that it will likely destroy smaller independent vaping retailers, many of which are concentrated in the KCK side of the metro area. So tonight's staff presentation was really just intended to kickstart CEDC discussion on next steps. Your direction tonight could trigger the need for more research that brings us back here, or preparation of an ordinance, or honestly, multiple ordinances that look at product regulation and or prohibition, and look at changes to the UDO on the land use restrictions that apply to things like vape shops. We've got staff here from the police department, here from Development Services, available to answer any questions that you may have and respond to your direction. Madam Chair.
Thank you. Thank you. Do we have conversation? Do you want to kick this off?
So, thank you. My end goal is I want to see 70H illegal in our city, any derivative of 70H illegal in our city, and make it really hard for gas stations to sell kratom, any of the illegal stuff that is harming our children. That I don't know that an age restriction is going to do much. Kids get alcohol from these same places. I don't think an age restriction is going to do much, but I think I'm excited to see what Kansas City does tomorrow night. I don't really trust Missouri legislation. They stay in filibuster half the year anyway, so I don't really trust us falling back on Missouri legislation for really much of anything, because chances are it's never going to leave committee, or it might in 10 years. But so I want to see our city do something, and I want to see our city be strict about it. That's my start to the discussion.
All right, thank you.
So, I know Mr. Wilson's here tonight and granted us with his presence. If there were some licensing, as we do with liquor license, I'm with Councilmember Pryor. I think we should just figure out a way to do away with all of it, but I don't know how easy that will be. And that may be some direction we need from the police department or from staff. If we just say we want to ban it in the city of Lee Summit, I don't know how easy that is to do, or if there's specific licensing that we could start with to require them to come forth if they want to sell this product. Or, I mean, the end goal would be, as Councilmember Pryor said, we just get rid of it all. I just don't know how we do that.
Is that a question?
Yeah, how would you propose we do that? Just set an ordinance and say no?
Obviously, with the police department, we enforce the laws that we can enforce that are on the books. There's business laws of what they can sell. As we just heard, the laws, what's prohibited, you know, this goes back to kind of what old K2 used to be, the gas station drugs where they used to spray the chemicals on products to smoke, things like this. The only big issue on that and how to get in front of it, it's going to take the, legal staff to do that, write those ordinances. But it takes one change in the molecular compound, that's what we learned back in the K2 days, to make that a void ordinance that we can't enforce. We have to have something that our labs, our crime labs can test for and break down, unless it's written in a manner that we can test it and it hits certain derivatives and that, if that makes sense. I mean, there's more than just assuming that this product is illegal. It's however the ordinance is written and how much teeth that we can come out and do enforcement. When the products were illegal in K2 and we had prosecutor, we had state levels, that became a state laws, and we go out and enforce those and have our drug units and things like that do those enforcement. Where the big teeth in those enforcement was seizing money related to it and seizing product, and ultimately getting back to the original suppliers and shutting them down that way. And that kind of tamped that down. These are different products, and again, it's just going to be however strong the ordinance that can get written up and what they can enforce. And then we would have the enforcement action if there's violations of that, like any other law. We could have our retail theft unit that's in my division. We've got CRT unit. We've got Jackson County Drug Task Force members as well. It all depends on how big of an issue, a problem, things like that. We already kind of do that with alcohol stings and even vape stings for the underage stuff, that our units are going out and doing that on a regular basis. So I hope that makes sense if that's what you're asking.
Yeah, I mean, we just have to go for the strongest reach and say it's not allowed in our city. I mean, it eliminates you guys having to find out if the product's at this level or that level. If it's just not allowed, period.
That's, again, it depends on the ordinance. There's going to be an issue of supplying, whether it's at a retail level selling the products, or if someone buys it in another jurisdiction where it's allowed and bringing it in, is sole possession or use in violation of that ordinance as well. So it's got to have a lot of different steps. Again, that takes the legal department and all of them to write it effectively. So
okay, thank you. So Ms. Albers, how deep do you want to go?
Let's go deep.
So if we said, I'm just throwing something out here, Commissioner Trafton may have some stuff to say. If we say we want an ordinance that it's banned in our city, if you're caught in possession in our city with it, it's illegal. I mean, that's going deep. I just think this is something that's terrible for our youth, and it's Be Kind Week, so I'm going to be kind to a lot of parents and just say we're going to do whatever we can to make sure it doesn't happen in our city.
Yeah, so I think having the clear direction on what the intended outcome is incredibly helpful. What I don't know off the top of my head is how we achieve those outcomes, but What I do know is that if we know what the outcome is, then we can work towards what all of those details look like. Now, that is likely not a very quick process, given the complexities associated with this topic in particular and the changing nature of it. So I think that's why having our conversation focused around outcomes can help provide us direction and help provide the, quite honestly, the direction that our legal staff is going to need to look into, so we can really establish kind of what those boundaries are associated with each one of these different items. And those boundaries continuously change. Again, I'm not trying to make excuses, more trying to set expectations.
Sure.
Good?
For now.
For now?
Yes.
Hi. Yeah, I mean, I agree with everything else. I think you guys are on the right track here. More is better. I like the idea of what some of the other communities are doing around density restriction. Like, I'm just curious what our density is. I saw a lot of stars on there, and then I swear there's a star missing, but I don't know. There could be. I know there's one near my home that a lot of residents get up in arms about because of the vaping and the kids getting to it and alcohol. So I love it when Mr. Wilson's talking about alcohol stings. So, I mean, I like those. So we need more of them. So, yeah, I think with the density, the distance from, certain things in our community, I think all those things are good. Like we have similar restrictions around alcohol sales. So I think mirroring what other people are doing, I'm curious what happens in KCMO. So I thank you.
Thank you. Ms. Pryor, you have something else?
Okay, so is there a current way to, well, I have a few things. One, I think at minimum, even if it's really hard to regulate the exact type of vape or the exact type of drugs. I know somebody mentioned maybe they're not classified as drugs. I will classify them as drugs for this. But so at minimum, I think that we do definitely need restrictions on, do they have to have any sort of a permit here if they're going to be selling e-cigarettes or anything like that? Do we require a permit? Or you said that?
Yeah, it currently on our code, it's treated as general retail. So
Okay.
they just have to have a business license.
So at minimum, I do want to see that, like require a permit, make it as hard as we can for them to sell this stuff without having to get like the police involved. And then, I mean, at the city level, and then as far as PD, so the derivatives of, this is just, do they respond to Narcan, like the derivatives, since they're synthetic? They probably wouldn't, would they?
Again, Brian Wilson with the police department. That's a great question, but I couldn't tell you that. That's going to be a medical thing. Even though, as she explained, it's an opioid-like drug, but I don't think I think Narcan specifically deals with opioids, if that makes sense. That'd be a good one for a doctor or the fire department.
Is there a way to, so say we made all of that illegal, is there anything on the market now? Like, I don't want to just make this so hard for you guys to have to regulate, but is there a way to test for that stuff now, or is it just, you just kind of have to guess?
Yeah, we don't have anything in place to test our equipment and some of our things like True Narc. These are specific drugs that's regulated, and they have those analogs and things like that in the system. I don't think our True Narc will do anything like that.
So making it illegal to just be in possession of that would be almost impossible without a way to test it.
Right, but again, anytime you want to regulate something, it's not just our ability. A lot of times we would have to take someone, anytime we have an unknown substance that we believe may be illegal, we have to take that and send it off to a crime lab.
Okay.
And then that's pending charges on pending the results from that. The more difficult the the chemical breakdown is, and they'll only test it for what's currently illegal. That's why, like I said, the state would have to get certain things, and we would have to back it up, or with the city ordinance and things like that to give us teeth for prosecution. But again, that's another layer that the prosecutions, our city prosecutor's office and state or anything like that that have to be involved in that decision-making as well.
Okay. That's good information. I think at minimum, like, I don't know how long it would take, but I think so if we did have an ordinance where they had to register to sell all of this stuff, and have an ordinance where we could only have one per every 10,000, I mean, per every like 15,000 residents, and they had to be spaced far apart, would any of that be retroactive when they went to go reapply for a business license if we did, or is all of that going forward?
I think that's a great question that we've just got to look into as to how that would work. Typically with a zoning regulation, for example, that would be a legal nonconforming. That being said, though, there may be an alternative path with the business licensing because that's not necessarily a zoning regulation. So that's kind of where I think that we would need to, again, just further map out I'm going to use a term that Ed might kick me for, but the legal loopholes associated with what these are, because it's just complex associated with this. So I think we can map a lot of that out and try to do the best we can on that.
Are you good? You got anything else?
Can be a Don't cover the button. Oh, there we go. This can be a gray area, and it can be difficult to enforce in court. Judges will routinely be slightly skeptical. The first question, which I think you guys have already talked about a little bit, is the proof of what it is. And sometimes that requires the same kind of test that you watch on TV where they pull the guy over and they test it for cocaine. Oh, that's not good enough to get it in court. that cocaine came back as positive cocaine from a crime lab before that guy ever got convicted. And so you wind up with definitional problems. I guess the two things I would tell you is, one, we'd need to talk to Abby and be sure that it's something that she can prosecute. And then two, frankly, our job is to write the best ordinance we can for you and take a shot at it. And if it doesn't work, we'll tell you, and we'll tell you why. But I don't think it's our position as lawyers to tell you, no, you can't. Okay, if we can't figure out a way to get there easily, then we'll try to build another road. I don't guarantee you we can get it done, but we'll give it a shot.
Okay, perfect. Thank you. That's all for right now. Yeah.
No, thank you, Chair.
Mr. Trafton, do you have anything else
No,
to add?
Chair.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so then what I heard was that we would like for staff, where did Ryan go? Oh, we would like for staff to figure out a way to make this illegal in our city, all of these items, however that may happen, whether it be through zoning or business licensing or criminal ordinances or what have you, and then bring it back to us. So a couple months maybe before you can get something. Yeah, because there's probably a huge list of these items that.
What Kansas City does tomorrow night, or next week. When do they?
You're not Mike's.
Okay. Does it depend a lot of what that looks like too? Are they kind of like paving the way for the rest of us?
Yes, I definitely think they are, and I think a lot of the jurisdictions around us are watching KCMO to see what their ultimate adopted ordinance looks like, because continuity will be important in terms of enforcing regulations.
But we can at least, even if we can't get something criminal on the books, we can at least start changing like what's allowed to be sold in the city per retail, how it is listed. I know we can't really group it with marijuana because that's all state, but if we can find some way to do something like that.
We can start looking at licensing and land use restrictions, yes.
Okay, perfect, thank you. Anybody else? No, good. Okay, well, that is the end of that one. We are now at roundtable. Do I have roundtable from anybody on the dais?
Yes.
Councilmember Pryor?
Sorry, thank you.
Don't
Okay,
apologize.
so I've gotten the question a ton. And I don't know if this is even anything that, okay, so right there where Swig is, the line is super long all of the time. And they're building right now 3 new stores. I keep getting the question that it's just a disaster waiting to happen and there's gonna be a lot of car accidents and there's not gonna be anywhere to park. I don't even know what the stores are going to be right there. What can be done? What's going to be done? Do you know of anything? Do you know where I'm talking about? What's the deal with that? And how are they going to how are they cramming those 3 stores in when literally the traffic is always running through there?
Nobody.
Sure. So if memory serves me correct, I'm not sure if there are 2 or 3 tenant spaces. I know one of them is slated to be an Einstein. Is it 3? Okay. One of them is slated to be in, is it Einstein Bagels or Einstein Brothers Bagels? So heard a little bit of feedback about it. I think what I'm aware of is the drive-through went through its review process. It has adequate queuing according to code and city requirements. The proposed 3 tenant spaces have adequate code. I assume it could be something that we can review later on and look at traffic circulation and queuing. If you have anything you want to add, that's where I'd leave it.
Yeah, the only thing that I would add is I think our primary concern in that area would be if there's any impact on the public roadways through there. The internal circulation of their parking lot is a bit of an issue on theirs. It meets all of our current code. I will say that anecdotally, the SWIG at time appears to generate a significant amount of traffic through there, but that does not appear to be queuing on the public roadways. It's queuing in the private property in the private areas. So it's kind of an operational challenge that those private owners will need to address. Now, if it starts impacting the public roadways, then we will have to go in and reroute their traffic on the public roadway, so that can't happen, if you will. I don't think that that's necessarily a concern in this area, and it looks to be more internal circulation that they're going to have to work through on their end, because we don't have a code that necessarily addresses that with that use.
So this is maybe a PD question, but if there's a little fender bender there, since it's on private property, that's not anything that PD can even, that's just kind of on them, right? I think they're busy talking. So right there, if there's a wreck, like right there with all of that traffic near Swig, that's nothing PD can even really get involved in. That's just kind of, you take your life in your own hands, take your car into your own hands, I guess, in that parking lot.
Traffic 101.
Major Nicole Walters, Police Department. If it's in the parking lot, it's a private property crash, so we would just have them exchange information.
That's what I was thinking.
If it's a hit and run, it'll be a little different.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Do we have any other roundtable? No. Nope. Do we have any staff roundtable?
Congratulations to Councilmember Hodges, and thank you for filling in as chair. Yeah, good meeting.
Yeah, all right. Sounds great. Okay, I will adjourn at, you don't have my time up, hold on, 4:48 p.m.